In this track guide, we'll be covering the Monza circuit. We'll be taking a look at braking points and hopefully be able to improve your lap times at this track. If you are finding it difficult to slow down enough for the corners, then I recommend you brake a little bit earlier than what I show in this video. I will also be referencing braking markers or braking references, and these are objects around the track that you can use to memorize where you should be braking. You won't always brake right next to these, but you'll brake quite close to them. So let's get into this lap guide, and first we're going to start with the final corner, which is what leads you onto your lap. So there will be two lines that you can take to either begin or end your lap at this track, and I'll show them right here. The green line you want to only take at the beginning of a hot lap or a qualifying lap, and the blue line is usually what you would drive during a race or at the end of your hot lap. So we'll be staying out wide to begin this lap to carry as much speed as we can onto the lap, staying towards the left side of the track and heading down the main straight. Now for the first corner, we want to be looking out for a 150 meter board, which will be our braking marker and our braking point for the first turn. As you can see right here, I've just marked out the sign, the 150 meter board, and where that spot is on the track, that's exactly where we want to be braking, as late as that. Downshifting all the way down to first gear here, and as you can see there's a sausage curb on the inside of the track. You ideally want to avoid that, but you can run a little bit over it if you have to. Avoid going too far over that curb as you will get an unsettled car, but narrowly avoid it if you can, and then pull the car a little bit back to the right side of the track, giving you a good line to turn and exit the chicane. Again, avoid the sausage curb, but stay on the regular curb. Use as much as you can, carrying the car towards the outside of the track, having a nice smooth exit, and the throttle all the way down to the floor. Avoid the sand because you will lose a lot of time by touching the sand at all on Assetto Corsa. So now we'll be relaxing a little bit, preparing for the next turn. We're going to be keeping all the way to the inside of this long right-hander here. And then stay towards the right. We want to be braking directly under this bridge. I marked it out here at the top. It's quite clear to see. And we're going to be braking right beneath it here where the spot is on the screen. Downshifting to second gear. And similar to the first chicane, we want to use all the regular curb that we can, but do not hit the sausage curb because it will bounce the car around and you will lose lap time. So we want to pull the car all the way to the left as close as we can to the sausage curb without hitting it, giving us a nice line to exit the chicane. Again, trying to avoid the sausage curb. I do hit it here. Luckily, I get away with it, but most of the time, if you hit the big curb, you're going to spin out or you're going to lose time. I luckily get away with it there. Don't hit the sand again. Approaching Lesmo 1, there is a bit of an orange mark on the fence on the right. It's not a very obvious braking marker, but we're going to use it here. You want to brake a little bit before this marker, as I've marked on the screen here, where the red dot is. Slightly turning in a little bit, and as you let off the brake, you can turn more towards the inside of the corner. Don't run onto the curb on the inside, just try to get as close to it as you can without hitting it, like I'm showing with the green arrow. And where that green dot is, you want to begin accelerating again. Now here is a little bit tricky, because this green tarmac or this green AstroTurf on the left, it's very slippery, but if you drive out wide here, it gives you a nice fast exit. So be very careful with your steering. You want to have as straight as possible when you make it onto this AstroTurf. Now heading down to Lesmo 2, we're going to brake just before the 50 meter board here, as marked on screen. So a little bit before it, and then we head to Lesmo 2, where the inside curb is a little bit bigger than the previous one. So in this car, it doesn't like hitting this curb. So again, keep away from it. Just get as close to it as you can without hitting it. Narrowly avoiding it, making your line as short as possible. Hopefully giving you a smooth exit, which will also put you towards the outside of the track and again onto the AstroTurf. Again, this AstroTurf is very slippery, so keep your wheel as straight as possible when you make it onto the surface. Don't run onto the grass because you will most likely spin out. Then we'll be heading down the hill to the Ascari chicane, which we will do right now. And when we do approach the Ascari chicane, we'll be looking for another sign that sits above the track. That will be one of our braking markers, but there will be another one just after it, which is another orange mark on the fence. And we're going to brake right next to that. As you can see, I've marked the sign on the top and the orange part of the fence, which is the end of the fence, on the right here. And we're going to brake pretty much alongside that directly. Then the first turn, you can use a lot of this curb, except I use a little bit too much here. So where I've marked the red arrow is probably about where you don't want to hit the curb. The green arrow shows how much curb you can use. you want to pull the car as much to the left as you can, which gives you a nice line to take this right-hander here. Don't run too far to the right too early, because then you'll compromise your line for the next turn. Keep as far to the left as you can, like I show with the white arrow. And then you'll have to probably lift slightly off the throttle to keep the car to the right without it pushing too far to the left during the middle of the Assetto chicane. So as you can see, I have lifted off the throttle just a little bit so I can pull the car back to the right. I'm very close to the inside where the curb is, but if you do go onto that curb, the car will begin to slip and spin out. And at the exit of the chicane, you can cut almost right over this inside curb without invalidating your lap. It'll be absolutely fine. You'll carry a lot of speed, just like this, all the way to the right side of the circuit to maximize how much speed we carry out of the turn. And then we head back to the final turn, which is where we have one of the more complicated braking and turning parts of the track. So firstly, we're going to look at where we are braking, and there is a green patch of AstroTurf on the left side. We're going to be braking right in the middle here on the track. So I'm going to slow the video down a little bit so you can see how I'm taking this corner, turning a little bit, then releasing the brake, and only once the car is stabilized, then you can begin turning. And then as you've got the front of the car is gripped up, you want to begin accelerating again. Again, don't go into the inside curb because it's not the ideal line and you'll get an unstable car. But once the front is gripped up, you can begin accelerating again all the way back to the outside of the track. And then once you have the car gripping up and turning back to the inside of the track, you want to make the shortest line possible to the end of the lap to cross the finish line. You don't want to stay on the outside of the track throughout this corner now. So once you've got the grip here in the middle of the corner, you can bring the car back to the inside of the track. And we head straight towards the finish line now to complete our lap. And this lap was a 1:47.133, which was, in my opinion, it was a nice, clean, fast lap with only a couple mistakes. Now, I'm going to show you the lap again, except I won't be talking, just so you can see it without any distractions. As we come to the end of this lap, I would just like to point out a couple things. This car has a very high tendency to make oversteer into entries of corners. For example, Lesmo 1 and the final corner, it is very easy to get oversteer. So if you are suffering with a lot of oversteer, I would suggest to brake earlier, slow down a little bit more before the corners, and then turn in. And I hope this lap guide has helped you to improve your lap times.